Hey, Abbott, what time is it?
It's time for the Abbott and Costello Show. We're on the air for ABC here in Hollywood.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's go with the Abbott and Costello Show.
Yes, it's the Abbott and Costello Show, produced and transcribed in Hollywood for your listening and laughing pleasure. Chuckles with a carload and music by Matty Malnick. So hold on to your chairs, folks, for here they are, Bud Abbott and Lou Costello.
Stop that yelling, Costello. Come over here. I need $10,000 in a hurry. Will you loan it to me?
Ha ha!
Uh-huh. Haven't got that much, huh? Well, how about 8,000?
Ha 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 ha!
How about 5,000? 1,000? Costello, when are you going to stop that laughing?
When you get down to about $3.25.
As the clock ticked down to Christmas, it also ticked down on Abbott and Costello's time as popular American comedians.
Also to women? Who told you that?
Women.
What?
Although Bud Abbott and Lou Costello are remembered for their movies, they got their start towards national fame on radio. They met in 1929 when Costello was booked with a vaudeville act into a neighborhood theater. Abbott worked in the box office and soon found himself playing Costello's straight man.
A salami sniper?
In 1938, they appeared at Lowe's in New York, where they were seen by Ted Collins. He was architect of Kate Smith's career. Their slap-happy style was perfect for radio. For 2 seasons beginning February 3rd, 1938, they were regulars on the Kate Smith Hour, while also appearing on Edgar Bergen's Chase and Sanborn Hour. Signed by Universal in 1939, the duo pulled the studio out of financial trouble with a string of low-budget hits. NBC gave them a summer replacement show for Fred Allen in 1940. Then in the fall of 1942, they went on the air full-time for Camel Cigarettes. They were an immediate top 10 ratings hit and became a Thursday night comedy staple.
Then we became engaged. I slipped the ring on her finger. I didn't have a ring, so I used a cigar band.
Where did you get the cigar band?
Mabel happened to be smoking a White Owl at the time. I know it was a White Owl. I could smell the feathers.
Costello, you could graduate with honors from an idiot's college.
Thank you, Professor.
Hey, wait a minute, boys. Here's a serious-looking fella trying to get a word in edgewise. Let's see what he has to say.
With their ratings slipping, they moved to ABC in the fall of 1947, where they were offered a second Saturday morning children's show. But ratings slipped further due to overexposure, having starred in 23 similar films throughout the decade. By the fall of 1948, neither of their shows were sponsored. ABC canceled both shows in the spring of 1949 after Lou Costello's rheumatic fever relapsed. They jumped into television in the 1950s, but were never again stars of the same magnitude.
Carlo D'Angelo, whom I mentioned earlier, gentle, soft-spoken director there in New York, one of the early big-time directors. Carlo D'Angelo, Gordon White, the days of the early big-time programs. Carlo was directing the Al Jolson show from the control room. And during rehearsal one day, they finished a skit, and Carlo punched the talk back and said, "Al," Jolson, "Yeah, what do you want?" He said, "Al, I think if you accent the word groom in that last gag, you might get a little bigger laugh." Jolson said, "Who the hell do you think you are, you little Dago son of a bitch, telling Jolson how to read his lines? Look, Buster, I've been in show business too many years. I know all about it. And I've got $7 million to prove it, and what do you got?" Friends, Al. Of course, he was through on the show. but it scored.
This is the Kraft Music Hall, starring Al Jolson with Oscar Levant, Lou Bring and his orchestra and chorus, and our guests, the Kraft Choral Club of Chicago.
So keep on looking for a bluebird and listening for its song. Whenever April showers come along. Merry Christmas, folks. This is Al Jolson in the Kraft Music Hall, who's going to sing a song that has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas. Is it true what they say about Dixie? Does the sun really shine all the time?
After Al Jolson's career resurgence helped the Kraft Music Hall vault back into the top 20 in 1947 for NBC, the entire team had high expectations coming into the fall of 1948. The show stayed on the air through the summer, but there was a big problem. CBS was now dominating Thursday's primetime ratings. By September, the Kraft Music Hall's rating was down into single digits. Jolson stayed the course, and the rating rebounded to 17.8 in December. On December 23rd at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, Jolson took to the air with holiday greetings and well wishes. 1949 would prove to be a radio swan song for Jolson. By the spring, ratings were back down into single digits, and he left the program in May. Having had his left lung removed years earlier after contracting malaria, Jolson toured the Korean front in 1950. By the time he returned, the dust and dirt of the Korean front had settled in his remaining lung, and he was close to exhaustion. On October 23, 1950, while playing cards in his suite at the St. Francis Hotel in San Francisco, Jolson was stricken with a massive heart attack. He died before making it to the hospital.
I have a little Christmas package for you that comes from everyone connected with the Kraft Music Hall.
Oh, Ken, I've got to do the show. Don't let me break down now, but really, that's wonderful.
Well, everyone except one person, Oscar Levant.
Well, you know, Ken, ordinarily I'd feel bad about Oscar, but I don't care, because this morning, just this morning, Mr. Kraft, you know, the man who owns the show, sent me a big box of cheese.
He did?
Yeah, and he put a beautiful greeting card in the package. Here it is, Ken, read it. Read it out loud, will you?
I'll read it. Well, it says, Merry Christmas, Al. In the coming year, may your hooper be as high as your age.
Isn't that ridiculous? Whoever gets a hooper past 42? But tell me, Ken, why didn't Oscar chip in on my gift? That, really hurts me.
Well, you remember, Al, you didn't talk to him.
In just a moment, Autolite presents Suspense with Herbert Marshall. 'Twas the night before Christmas, and in Santa Claus' sleigh, the electrical system was plenty okay. The ignition was perfect, worked like a dream, and the sleigh ran so smooth it made Santa beam.
Well, what was Santa's secret, Otto?
I heard him exclaim as he drove out of sight, "It's no secret at all. It's just Autolite."
Now, Harlow.
You see, Hap, with all the kids in the world depending on old St. Nick Christmas Eve, he plays safe by replacing old or worn-out parts in his Autolite-equipped sleigh, with Autolite original factory parts: resistor spark plugs, stay full batteries, distributors, starting motors, coils, generators, wire, and cable. All famous for their Autolite ignition-engineered dependability. Santa does it. Why don't you?
Harlow, let's switch from Santa to Suspense.
The reason for Jolson's radio consternation in the fall of 1948? Suspense. CBS had programmed radio's outstanding theater of thrills opposite the music hall at 9 p.m. The show's rating was 18.5 in September. By Christmas 1948, it was up to nearly 22, and radio's highest-rated mystery show. On December 23rd, it broadcast Holiday Story starring Herbert Marshall.
Suspense. Autolite and its 60,000 dealers and service stations bring you radio's outstanding theater of thrills. Starring tonight, Mr. Herbert Marshall in Anton Leader's production of John Collier's holiday story. A tale well calculated to keep you in suspense.
Jingle bells, jingle all the way. Oh, what fun just to ride in a one-horse open sleigh. Oh, jingle bells.
Wilfred! Wilfred!
Yes, my dear.
What on earth are you doing down here in the cellar?
Why, just doing a little digging.
And why, may I ask, have you chosen this day of all days to dig up the cellar floor?
Well, I thought as the weather's been so damp, this would be a good time to plant that little devil's garden I told you about.
Devil's garden? Whatever nonsense is that?
Oh, that was my little joke about it. You see, I've managed to get hold of the spores of several unclassified wild orchids.
Oh.
In their wild state, they bloom under damp masses of leaf mold. The Araucanian Indians call them devil flowers because they appear to bloom under the ground.
Well, I'm sure the Araucanian Indians will be very interested if you succeed in growing these ridiculous flowers under the cellar floor. Whom else it will interest, I can't imagine. Ooh, what's that terrible smell?
That's the leaf mold. Chemically identical with the earth blanket they grow under in the wild state. I suppose I should line the pit with concrete so as to prevent seepage from this foreign soil, but I don't suppose there'll be much time for it now, and I do want to get these started before we close the house.
There certainly will not be time for it. Do you realize that we're sailing for America a week from today? And you've made no arrangements whatever. Unless you call digging a hole in the cellar making arrangements. I certainly don't. Devil's garden, indeed. Sometimes I think you're going soft in the head, Wilfred.
I suppose it is inconsiderate of me. You see, I've been wanting to try this experiment for a long, long time, but what with my lectures and seminars at the university, there never seemed a time.
Well, there certainly isn't any time for it now. I suppose you've forgotten I made an appointment for you at the barber's this afternoon.
Oh, no. But, must I shave off my beard, Hermione?
I thought we'd been through all that. Of course you must. They don't wear beards in America. Go get your jacket on and do as I tell you.
Yes, Hermione.
And don't forget to take your umbrella. It looks like rain.
Yes, Hermione.
Oh, don't look so put upon, Wilfred.
No,
Someone has to plan things in this house, or you'll never even get to the university in time for your lectures, much less make arrangements for a trip to America.
Oh, I know. But what about my specimens?
There'll be plenty of time to plant your precious devil's garden when we get home from America. We're not going to be gone forever, you know. We'll be back here for the holidays.
Oh, yes, of course, back for the holidays. I'd forgotten.
Well, try to remember it. And if you can't do that, just do as I tell you. I've been making the plans in this house for 20 years. And if there's any digging to be done, I'll manage that as well. You understand, Wilfred?
Yes, Hermione.
Good. You have just 20 minutes to clean up this mess down here and keep your appointment at the barber's. And when you finish there, I want you to come straight home.
Oh, I wanted to stop and pick up some books I ordered.
Well, all right. But don't loiter the whole afternoon browsing over those old books the way you usually do. Now hurry and clear up this rubbish. Get rid of that smelly stuff. And no more digging, mind you.
Yes, Hermione. Yes, Hermione. How many years has it been since I've been saying that? 10 years, 15, 20? Clear up the rubbish. Yes, Hermione. Don't forget your umbrella. Yes, Hermione. Do this, do that. Yes, Hermione. Yes. How much longer can I stand this?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, Miss Markham.
Why, it is Professor Carpenter, isn't it?
Oh, you like me better this way?
Oh, you look ever so much younger without the beard. 20 years at least.
20 years.
You'll be glad to know those books you ordered have finally arrived.
Books?
Phytotomy of phalloid gametophytes and coniferous shrubs of North America. Those are the ones you ordered, aren't they?
Yes, thank you. You're very kind, Miss Markham.
Why kind, Professor Carpenter?
Not many young ladies in bookshops would go out of their way to look up rare books for an old professor of botany.
Why, you're not old, Professor Carpenter. Really, you look... And besides, I adore botany. It's my particular hobby.
Oh, really?
Yes.
You never told me that before, Miss Markham.
I was afraid to. You were so imposing with the beard and all.
Miss Markham.
Yes?
Forgive me if this sounds foolish, but I feel that shaving off my beard is the most important thing I've done for Well, for 20 years.
Oh, it is. I'm sure it is. I'm ashamed that I've been so distant with you all this time. Oh, there were times when I almost spoke up. Times when you came in here tired after a day with your students at the university. You seemed so alone, the way I'm alone in the world. I'd like to have asked you to stay a while and talk with me. But some way or other, I wound up by giving you your change and letting you go on your way.
You say you're all alone in the world?
Since my father died.
Did you never think of marrying?
My father was a very remarkable man. I never found anyone who seemed to measure up to what he led me to expect of men.
Miss Markham.
It's been so long since anyone called me by my first name. I'd like you to, if you want to. It's Marion.
Marion.
And yours?
Wilfred.
Oh, how long have you been alone, Wilfred?
Alone?
Oh, I knew you were a widower, of course, the first time I saw you.
A widower?
I can always tell. There's a certain sadness in a man's eyes, a sweet sadness, I think, when he's been married and then...
A widower. I never thought of it in quite that way.
But perhaps I shouldn't be talking like this. But I've often wondered what she must have been like. Your wife, I mean.
Hermione?
Was that her name?
Yes, Hermione. Not an easy woman to forget. Very strong, always managing things. The house, my wardrobe, my friends. When we dined at a restaurant, she even ordered my food. She was always managing things. You might say she... Yes, she managed herself to death.
Poor woman. She must have loved you very much. But she needn't have put herself out so. It's plain to see you don't need things managed for you.
Is that so?
You need companionship, I think. Someone sympathetic with your work.
At 5 p.m. on Christmas Eve, all 4 major networks cover the annual lighting of the national Christmas tree from the White House lawn. Because the presidential mansion was undergoing renovation preparations, President Truman was celebrating Christmas in his hometown of Independence, Missouri. Truman signaled for the lighting of the 30-foot oriental spruce by remote control. Although the first family was absent, the people's Christmas greetings to them were delivered by a boy and girl who'd received the Recreation Department 1948 Youth Award. The tree was decorated with red and green lights and featured a white light every third light. For the first time, the television viewing audience was kept in mind. It was another indication that change was coming in the 1950s.
Fiery horse with the speed of light, a cloud of dust, and a hearty Hi-Yo Silver, the Lone Ranger.
The General Mills-sponsored Lone Ranger from WXYZ in Detroit first began airing on January 31st, 1933. The next year, it became one of the cornerstone programs which led to the formation of the Mutual Broadcasting System. The show moved to the Blue Network in 1942 and would remain on the network after it became ABC. In the fall of 1948, The Lone Ranger was the top-rated multiple-run series on the air, pulling a rating of 15.5. It would remain the #1 multiple-run program for the next 2 seasons. On Christmas Eve 1948 at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, while families gathered around the table, kids everywhere snuck away to hear the Lone Ranger's broadcast of Christmas Comes to Sandy.
With his faithful Indian companion Tonto, the daring and resourceful masked rider of the plains led the fight for law and order in the early western United States.
Nowhere in the pages of history can one find a greater champion of justice. Return with us now to those thrilling days of yesteryear. From out of the past come the thundering hoofbeats of the great horse Silver. The Lone Ranger rides again.
Come on, Silver. Let's go, big fellow. Hi-yo, Silver. Hi!
It was an hour before midnight. In spite of the snow that fell in large drifting flakes, an unusual brightness was reflected by the shimmering whiteness of the trail as the Lone Ranger, with his 14-year-old nephew Dan Reed, and with his Indian companion Tonto, rode leisurely along toward the town of Silverton.
You haven't said much, Dan. What's on your mind?
Well, as a matter of fact, sir, I'm wondering why we're riding to Silverton. It's so late, and with the snow and all.
Well, maybe you tell Dan everything now, so him enjoy visit we make tonight, Kimasabi.
All right, Tonto. I think Dan will learn a lesson from what's happened. And what's more, I think he'll appreciate what's to come.
Golly, I'd like to hear about it, sir.
I guess you've heard of Mr. Upton, who came to Silverton about 8 months ago and bought the silver mining company there?
Oh, yes, sir. He has a boy about my age named Donald. I met Donald Upton several times at the general store in town.
Well, Mr. Upton has an office in town, and Walt Miller was manager of the mining headquarters outside of Silverton. Upton rarely went to the mine and left things out there in Miller's hands. About 3 weeks ago, Walt Miller entered Mr. Upton's office and...
Good morning, Walt. I suppose you've come for the payroll.
That's right, Mr. Upton.
Bill, my clerk here, brought the money over from the bank a while ago. I'll count it out for you shortly and lock it in the bag for you to take out to the cashier at the mine. By the way, how's old Sheldon getting along?
Well, sir, as a matter of fact, Sheldon's resigned and took a job over at Pecos.
Sheldon resigned?
Yes, sir. But I put a new man on last week. Nice chap that Sheldon knew in Stockton. He's a bank teller there. Came there about 6 months ago.
Oh, I see. Why did he want to leave the bank?
He sure had reason enough. His job pays a lot more for one thing, and he needs money bad. Has a boy about 8 years old and a wife who's an invalid. Seems a skittish horse threw her a couple of months ago, and she hasn't been able to walk since.
Oh, that's too bad.
It sure is. Dawson hopes to get enough money someday to pay a good surgeon to examine her and maybe do something for her.
Dawson, did you say?
Yes, sir. That's his name, Paul Dawson. Live in that rather shabby little house at the east end of town.
Paul Dawson, huh? And he went to Stockton about 6 months ago?
Yes, sir. Came from St. Louis, I understand.
I see. So he's our new cashier out at the mine, huh?
Yes, sir.
I suppose you'll follow the usual routine with Dawson as you have with Sheldon. Carry the locked bag containing the payroll to him and have him open it with the key I left out there?
That's right. You have the only other key to lock it with. As long as you handle the money here and he's responsible for it out there, I'd rather not have a key to the bag.
Of course. Well, I'll get the money from the safe. I hope that fellow's trustworthy, since he's so badly in need of cash.
Well, I'm sure he is, Mr. Upton.
Well, here's the cash. Put the bag on my desk and open it up.
All right. There it is.
Cash is tied up as usual in bundles of $500 each. Here are 11 bundles to make the necessary 5,000 to 500 for the payroll. I'll put them in. There's one bundle, 2, 3, 4.
Upton slowly counted the bundles of cash as he put them in the small black bag under the watchful eyes of Walt Miller. Finally, all 11 bundles were in the bag. Then, as Mr. Upton closed the bag and reached into his pocket for the key, he spoke to Miller.
By the way, Walt, step into the back office and tell Bill I want him to ride out to the mine with you. I've heard of outlaws in the vicinity.
Gosh, in that case, I'll be glad to have him go. I'll get him. Glad Bill's coming with me. Wouldn't like to get robbed on the way.
The Equitable Life Assurance Society presents This Is Your FBI. This is Your FBI, the official broadcast from the files of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Presented as a public service by the Equitable Life Assurance Society of the United States and the Equitable Society's representative in your community. For the past 3 weeks, the Equitable Life Assurance Society has been offering members of this radio audience...
This Is Your FBI debuted over ABC in New York in April of 1945. It ran stories from official federal case files and was sponsored by the Equitable Life Assurance Society. After it cracked radio's top 25 in 1947, ABC moved the series to the West Coast. Now recording from KECA in Hollywood, famed radio character actor Stacey Harris took the lead of Special Agent Jim Taylor. In December of 1948, This Is Your FBI gave ABC something it lacked on any other evening, the highest-rated show on the air. That month, the show's rating was 16.2, while Jimmy Durante fell to 14.3 for NBC, and Easy Aces pulled a 13.4 on CBS. On Christmas Eve 1948, This Is Your FBI broadcast an episode entitled The Return of St. Nick, about a pageant Santa who inexplicably runs away from his favorite holiday event.
The United States is a young country in the family of nations, but already it has its share of national holidays. Holidays that belong to these 48 states. Those holidays are spaced from February to November, and of every one of those days, it can be said that they belong to the people of the United States exclusively. But there is one legal holiday observed in this country that does not belong to us exclusively, any more than it belongs to any nation. It, too, celebrates a birthday which has come to mean much in the hearts of millions of people. A birthday we call Christmas. Tonight's file opens in an FBI field office located in a large eastern city. It is 2 days before Christmas, and Special Agent Jim Taylor has just entered the office of Agent in Charge, Sheridan.
Morning, Jim.
Morning, sir. I've got my report here on the Henderson case.
Fine. Just leave it on my desk.
All right.
You're officially on leave, aren't you, Jim?
Yes, sir, as of this morning. But I wanted to hand this in before I left.
Going out of town for the holiday?
That's right, sir. I'm flying home this afternoon.
Oh, how long since you've been home on Christmas?
Oh, not since before the war.
Well, have a nice trip, Jim.
Thank you, sir.
And a very Merry Christmas.
And the same to you, sir.
Mister,
Yes, what is it, son?
where's the FBI?
Right down there at the end of the hall.
Thank you.
Wait a minute.
Huh?
What do you want with the FBI, son?
Well, we've got some trouble, and I thought they could help us.
Well, I'm a special agent. You think I could help?
Are you a G-man?
That's right. What kind of trouble have you got?
Well, Santa Claus is missing.
Well, now that is trouble.
His name is Mr. Norton, and we've got to find him. We looked all over.
Who looked all over?
All of us older fellas at the settlement house. We went every place.
All of you older fellas, huh?
Yeah.
How old are you, son?
I'll be 10 next month.
I see.
Can you help us, mister?
Well, I don't know, but I'll tell you what we'll do first. Let's go downstairs and get an ice cream soda, and you can tell me the whole story.
This is the settlement house, Mr. Taylor.
It's a nice-looking building.
Here, we go in this door.
Okay. Go ahead, son.
Mr. Williams' office isn't there. Gee, he's a nice man.
I'm sure he is. This door here?
Yeah. Oh, but first we must knock.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Come in.
Hello, Mr. Williams.
Hello, Eddie.
This is Mr. Taylor.
Well, how do you do, Mr. Taylor?
Glad to meet you, sir.
Mr. Taylor's a G-man.
He is?
Yeah, I got him to help us find Mr. Norton.
I see.
Well, I've got to run now. Choir practice starts in 10 minutes.
All right, Eddie, you go ahead. I'll explain everything to Mr. Taylor.
See you later, Eddie.
Okay.
I'm sorry you were bothered by Eddie, Mr. Taylor.
No bother at all, Mr. Williams. Eddie made me feel genuinely concerned.
I'm sure he did.
We're all very concerned about Mr. Norton.
Well, if there's anything at all I can do, unofficially, of course, I'd be very happy to.
That's very nice of you.
What happened to this Mr. Norton? Who is he?
Well, Pop Norton has worked here at the settlement house longer than anyone can remember.
I see. How old would you say he is?
I guess around 60 or 65.
And his job here?
Nothing in particular. He did odd jobs around the house in return for his room and board and a few dollars a month. The biggest job he had was being Santa Claus every year at the Christmas party. Every child in the house was crazy about him, and he loved every one of them in return.
Eddie said he was missing. Is that true?
Yes. I've no idea where he could have gone.
What made him leave?
That's the odd part of it. No one seems to know. Yesterday, he sent one of the boys in with a note to me saying he was leaving immediately.
I see.
I went to his room, and he was gone. I'm afraid it's not going to be much of a Christmas for the children without Pop.
Mr. Williams, do you mind if I take a look around his room?
Not at all.
Maybe I can find something there that will lead us to where Santa Claus is hiding.
God rest ye merry gentlemen, let nothing you dismay. Remember Christ our Savior.
Mr. Williams.
Was
May I see you for a moment?
Certainly. Keep singing, boys. Let's walk over here.
When we were gone astray.
Did you find anything in Mr. Norton's room, Mr. Taylor?
Not a thing, Mr. Williams. The room was cleaned out. Tell me, what do you know about Mr. Norton? What did he do on his day off? Who were his friends?
He never took a day off that I can remember.
No?
The only pleasure he got out of life besides serving the kids was reading. He always had 3 or 4 books from the library down the street.
I have a hunch Mr. Norton isn't going to be too difficult to find.
Why do you say that?
Well, from what you've told me, he's a man of about 60 with no outside interests. The only things he likes are reading and children. That kind of a man doesn't usually run very far.
Pardon me.
Certainly.
All right, boys, you can rest a while. Sorry, Mr. Taylor. Please go on.
Well, I was about to say that I think he's probably still here in the neighborhood.
Mr. Taylor! Mr. Taylor!
Oh, hello, Eddie.
Oh, excuse me, sir.
All right, Eddie.
Mr. Taylor, I've been working on the case.
Good for you, son. What did you find?
Well, I spoke to a boy who saw Pop just before he left.
Well, that's fine. What did he say?
He told me that he was playing with Pop yesterday when 2 ladies came into the gym.
2 ladies?
Yeah. Pop saw them, and he went and hid in a closet until they went away.
When was this, Eddie?
Just before milk.
Just before milk?
That's at 4 o'clock. They all get milk and cookies.
Oh, I see. Well, thanks, Eddie. You've been a big help.
You're welcome, Mr. Taylor.
Oh, now, you stay here a minute, Eddie. I've got another job for you.
Gee, thanks.
Mr. Williams, do you know the 2 women who came here yesterday?
One of them was a Mrs. Chester. She's on the board of governors. She brought a wealthy friend of hers to try to interest her in contributing to the house.
I see. Do you know the friend's name?
No, I don't. But I can find it out from Mrs. Chester.
Oh, I'd appreciate you doing that. Now, Eddie, you ready for your assignment?
Yes, sir. Anything.
All right. I want you to go to the library down the street and see if Mr. Norton is there.
Yes, sir.
And if he's not there, wait around for him. I think he might come in for some new books. Mr. Sheridan, can I see you for a minute?
Certainly, Jim. Come on in.
Thank you.
I thought you'd be on your way home by now.
Yes, so did I.
What happened?
Well, when I left your office this morning, a young boy stopped me in the hall and asked for some help.
What kind of help?
Well, he belongs to the Murray Street Settlement House. It seems that their Santa Claus has disappeared.
What?
He wanted us to find him. I went back with him and talked to the head of the house.
What's the story?
Well, this Mr. Norton has worked at the settlement house for about 30 years. Yesterday, he suddenly quit.
Why?
Nobody seems to know, except that he saw 2 women come in and hid in a closet until they left. Then he packed all his belongings and disappeared.
I see.
I know this isn't our case, sir, but, well, I'd like to ask a favor.
What is it?
We have no picture of this man, sir, and I'd like to have an artist go over to the settlement house, talk to the kids, and make up a composite picture of Mr. Norton.
What do you want that for?
Well, I have a hunch Mr. Norton is still in the neighborhood. I'd like to circulate the picture and see if we can't get him back to the settlement house in time to be Santa Claus again this year.
What about your trip home, Jim?
Oh, it can wait a day. I don't mind.
Well, you go ahead. We'll find an artist, and more than that, you can use any facilities we've got.
No, thanks very much, sir.
Excuse me. Sheridan speaking.
Is Mr. Taylor there?
Yes, just a moment. It's for you, Jim.
Oh, thanks. Hello?
Hello, Mr. Taylor. I've got that information for you.
Oh, fine.
The woman with Mrs. Chester yesterday was a Mrs. Norman Montgomery. She lives at 310 North Jackson Avenue.
Mrs. Norman Montgomery. 310 North Jackson Avenue. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Williams.
She must have been the one Pop was afraid of.
Oh, why do you say that?
Well, Mrs. Chester has been on friendly terms with Pop for 15 years.
Oh, I see. Oh, Mr. Williams, I'm sending an artist over. I'd appreciate your letting him talk to all of the children so that he can make up a composite picture of Mr. Norton for us.
We'll do anything we can to help, Mr. Taylor.
Fine. He should be there in about, half an hour.
Oh, wait a minute. Eddie wants to talk to you.
Okay.
Here he is.
Hello, Mr. Taylor.
Hello, Eddie. What did you find out?
Nothing. I went to the library like you said, but Pop never came.
Well, you go back there, Eddie, and keep watching. Don't give up so easily.
All right, Mr. Taylor. I'll go back right now.
Attaboy. And you tell all of your friends up there that if it's at all possible for the FBI to find Santa Claus, we'll have him there tomorrow night for that party.
This Is Your FBI proved that even G-men celebrate Christmas.
Well, what about the Red Skelton show? Now, you played Junior's, when
Mummy.
Red was Junior, you played Junior's mother.
Mummy, uh-huh. She
Mummy,
was always
right.
called Junior's
Not
Mummy.
Namaw. Namaw was
No.
Verna Felton.
Yes, right.
You were Junior's mummy,
Uh-huh. And I played Daisy June, his girlfriend. That was Clem Cadiddlehopper's girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And I played Mrs. Willie Lump Lump. He was the drunk. I played a lot of other parts on the show. I have some of those tapes, and they're fun to listen to. I really think Red Skelton should get out a lot of his tapes and play them again, because I really think his show was always better on radio than it ever was on TV.
Well, that's the old
Just
story
funnier.
of...
To me, it was funnier.
Story of the imagination again.
Absolutely.
At 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time, the Red Skelton Show took to the air over NBC. After 7 seasons as one of Tuesday's top comedies, sponsor Brown & Williamson Tobacco inexplicably moved the program to Friday nights, swapping it with People Are Funny. With Friday being radio's lowest-rated evening, Skelton lost 30% of his audience, and Brown & Williamson Tobacco canceled the show. Procter & Gamble picked it up, and in December of 1948, he was still pulling a rating of 19.5.
Yes, it's the Red Skelton Show, brought to you by Tide, Procter & Gamble's amazing new discovery for your whole family wash.
Tide's in, dirt's out. Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap.
Any soap?
Yes, any soap. Tide gets clothes cleaner than any soap. T-I-D-E, Tide.
And now from Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer comes the star of our program, Red Skelton.
Thank you and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are you, Rod?
Oh, I'm fine, Red. Say, did you get your Christmas tree yet?
Yeah, I got a tree up in the mountains. Mountains.
Mountains?
I come up with new words all the time. Get your dictionaries out, will you?
Mountains, why didn't you buy your tree?
Well, I tried one place, but I stopped and they were asking $1.
Oh, but Red, $1 per tree isn't much.
Yeah, but $1 per needle is. It's such scrawny little trees this year, you know.
Pretty small, huh?
I got one of the $5 trees caught under my fingernails and was arrested for shipload. I'm gonna bite my nails, too.
Oh, now stop it.
No, I selected one tree and I asked the tenant to paint it for me. Ship hopping, that's funny. I asked him to paint it for me, and he aimed the spray gun at it, and he turned on the air pressure, and last I saw it was flying over Pasadena.
Well, I don't blame you for going to the mountains to get a tree. Did you have fun decorating the tree?
Yeah, the decorating wore me out.
Well, there's no work
Hey,
to
you
decorate.
know a good way to get icicle effect on your tree?
No.
Stand in front of the tree and let somebody slap you on the back while you're eating a plate of spaghetti. Hey, well, forget it. What do you think we ain't got much time. What do you think you'll get for
Red, I've got a confession to make. I opened your present already, and frankly, I'm disappointed.
Yeah?
I've been hinting all year for a television set.
I've been hitting all year. You weren't going to get it, too. Did you like my gift?
Oh, I appreciated the gift, but to save my soul, I can't figure out what it is.
Well, then we're even. Neither could I. It was such a bargain, I hate to let it go by. I think it's a monogram kilogram fly swatter with a year's supply of flies.
Well, what do you think you get from your family?
Well, I'll get a pair of shoes from Georgia and a pair of socks from my little boy Richard and shoestrings from my daughter Valentina. My feet will have a very Merry Christmas.
Well, how do you know what you're going to get? Did they tell you?
No, I opened the mail and the bill was there. Hey, speaking of mail, we got a telegram here from our sponsors tonight. Would you folks like to hear it, huh? Yeah. Thank you very much, both of you. It says, it's better to give than receive. This some people will not believe. As believers we give, and we give with delight, entertainment, so delete the commercials tonight. Merry Christmas, signed Procter & Gamble. Isn't that nice? The four knights are going to sing.
Well, it's poor little Jesus. Oh, yeah. He was Mary's baby.
I understand that he put on a after show for the studio audience when the regular radio broadcast
Yes, he did. At
was
least
on.
an hour, sometimes an hour and a half. He got steamed up, and the half-hour show didn't really satisfy him. So he kept the audience there afterwards. When we were on Fridays, we would have a preview on Thursday night, and he would go on and on and on and on. We'd have to stay there because we'd have to wait till his after show was over before we could listen to the record. And we would listen to the record to see how things went. And then we came back the next day and did the live show. Always live. I don't think I ever went on that we weren't live.
Yeah. Did you have to do 2 shows then, didn't you, for the West Coast and the East Coast?
No, in that case, no, because it was taken off on transcription and replayed. Many times we would do a 5 o'clock show, and that would be taken off on transcription and played later. But in the old days, we did do 2 shows. We would have an afternoon show, a 5 o'clock show, or a 5:30 show, and then come back and do it again at 8:30. But those were a lot of audience shows, too. We would wear street clothes in the afternoon and come back and wear evening clothes.
Oh, you really would
yes, it was a very glamorous business.
Two different audiences then.
Over at the Huntington Hartford, when I go backstage there, I think of the many radio shows we used to do there. The Lux radio show went on there, and lots of radio shows went on because they were audience shows. That's why I felt that radio was not just a microphone working kind of show. It was audience participation. And
one study estimated that Skelton got laughs every 11 seconds. He couldn't do an audience warm-up. Every time he did, he left the crowd limp with laughter instead of being primed for the main event. He reversed the trend and gave his fans an after show, then considered the hottest act in comedy. On Christmas Eve, Red was especially charged and had the audience rolling before the network feed even kicked on.
Tonight on the street corners and the vacant lots, we find the Christmas tree salesmen. And among them, we might find Clem Cadiddlehopper. Well, here I am. Yes, sir, here I am, old Clem Cadiddlehopper, the Christmas tree man. They say that because my head goes to a point, you see. Yes, sir, but selling Christmas trees in business is pretty bad, though. And I got a feeling after the mar it's gonna fall off. I worked like a beaver to get these trees, too. Wore all the enamel off my teeth. Burr, it's called. That's what it says, B-R-R-R, burr. Burr, it's called. Christmas trees at summer prices. Christmas trees. Uh-oh, here comes a lady loaded down with bundles. I bet she don't see that strip of ice on the sidewalk there. To the left, lady, to the left. For a second there, I thought she was going to miss it.
Help! Help me up!
Why, Daisy, you. What are you doing?
Well, help me out of that snowbank. I'm in it up to my head.
No?
What are you waiting for?
Well, the paper says warmer tomorrow, and if the snow thaws, well, you'll be in the clear.
Clem, don't ask so stupid. Help me up!
Okay. You okay?
I'm so frozen my face is blue.
Well, don't worry. It'll go back to its normal green again.
I believe it's getting colder.
Yeah.
Aren't you cold?
I'm freezing. I got so many goose pimples, they're working in 2 shifts. Let's stand over by the bonfire. Stand a little closer to the log there. You feel warmer?
Nope, I feel just as cold as ever.
Maybe I should have lit the logs, huh?
Why haven't you set fire to these logs?
Well, they last longer this way.
Did you tell Santa what you wanted for Christmas?
Yeah, I dropped him a note. I asked him for a xylophone.
How did you spell xylophone? How did you spell xylophone?
Oh, I'll settle for a drum.
You get more stupid every year.
Well, naturally, you don't think I want to go stagnant, do you? How to improve? Oh, I don't know what to tell Santa Claus to bring me.
Well, maybe he'll bring you something you really need.
No, I've given up asking for brains.
What are you going to give me?
Well, I haven't picked out a Christmas present yet. I was going to wait till after Christmas when the prices go down.
Clem, if you want to know what to get me for Christmas, Clem, I can give you a hint.
You can?
We don't have our Christmas tree yet.
Well, just pick out any tree here you like. Go ahead.
How about that 6-foot fir?
Oh, you don't want that big old thing, do you?
Yes, I do.
You're just saying that to be polite. That's my $10 tree. Would you like this little one here? It'll look cute on your mantle.
See, I'm going to have to buy a tree after all.
Yeah.
How much are they?
Well, they're $1.25 a foot.
Now, I want that 6-foot fir.
Uh-huh.
How much does that come to at $1.25 a foot?
Well, let's see now. You multiply 25 by 6. I'm going to have to take my shoes off for this one.
You did, I don't know how many shows the Red Skelton Show was on, how many, but
20 consecutive years.
you own the rights to all of those tapes, and
Yes.
you made the statement that you may ask for them to be burned upon your demise.
No.
Good.
No, I'll tell you what that was all. I play a lot of colleges.
Right.
And the college students, they ask all the time, when are we going to see your reruns?
Oh,
See?
yeah.
So this one day I go in, and they were talking about art. I go into colleges, I go in residence for 3 days. Each day I give talks with questions and answers. First day's political science, propaganda, and communications. Second day's religions. Third day's theatrical arts. So these students asked, they says, did you read about that Indian out in Arizona that burned all of his paintings because they were going to charge whatever he sold the last painting for? In case he died, that would be paid to the government. So he burned all of those paintings. So then someone says, what are you going to do if you don't release your paintings? I said, I'll do what the Indian did. See? That's how this started.
Oh.
Nothing was said. And about a year later, someone says, I understand that you're going to burn your reruns. So I said, I've created an interest now. They're interested. You know.
I got their attention.
I've got their attention. I says, yeah, that's what I'll do. If they don't release them before I die, they say, how do you know when you're going to die? I said, I'll put it in my will.
Skelton's Raleigh cigarette program would air on NBC until May 20th, 1949. The following autumn, he shifted to CBS with many other stars. By the autumn of 1951, Skelton was starring on TV, where he'd remain until 1971.
Christmas greetings to you. O little town of Bethlehem, now still we see thee lie. Above thy deep and dreamless sleep, the silent stars go by. Yet in thy dark street shineth the everlasting light. The hopes and fears of all the years are met in thee tonight. The management and staff of KFI, Earl C. Anthony Incorporated, extend Christmas greetings to you and invite you to enjoy the traditional poems and songs of this happy season. Music by Robert Mitchell and the famous Mitchell Boy Choir. Words by Howard Culver. These are Christmas greetings to you.
Everywhere, everywhere, Christmas tonight. Christmas in lands of the fir tree and pine. Christmas in lands of the palm tree and vine. Christmas where snow peaks stand solemn and white. Christmas where cornfields lie sunny and bright. Christmas where children are hopeful and gay. Christmas where old men are patient and gray. Christmas where peace, like a dove in his flight, broods o'er brave men in the thick of the fight. Everywhere, everywhere, Christmas tonight. For the Christ child who comes is the master of all. No palace too great, no cottage too small.
At 11 p.m. in Los Angeles, as couples snuggled up on their love seats, NBC's KFI broadcast their Christmas greetings concert with the Mitchell Boys Choir and Howard Culver as host. It was for many a scary time. The 1948 presidential election had given way to financial uncertainty as Cold War fears gripped the nation. The radio industry was in the midst of losing 1 million listeners to the new medium. Within 4 years, ABC, NBC, and CBS would take their greatest profits, pump them into TV, and leave radio for dead. However, the waning moments of Christmas Eve are a time to remember what's most important and remind us of our most difficult task, keeping Christmas in our hearts all year long.
It came upon the midnight clear, that glorious song of old, from angels, bending near the earth to touch their harps of gold. Peace to the earth, goodwill to men, from heaven's all-gracious King.
Of course, if you're one of those young single people who's out on the town, Christmas Eve can be quite an affair.
I'd like to remind you that the famous Music Hall Credit Jewelers give up their time just to wish you a very Merry Christmas. Music Hall Jewelers at 1277 6th Avenue at 51st Street in Manhattan, the home of the Bop Tin. And right now, down on Broadway to the Royal Roost, we go jumping with Symphony Sid.
Here we go.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, Friday night, Saturday morning, where we take our WMCA microphones right down to the Royal Roost, the original Metropolitan Opera House, and bring you some of the greatest in modern progressive jazz, featuring the wonderful Mr. B, Billy Eckstein, the sensational and wonderful Charlie Ventura and his Gone Group, and, of course, the great Bird, Charlie Parker and the All-Stars, who are now doing our theme, Jumping with Symphony Sid, and I know that we're really set for a wonderful morning, a brand new Christmas morning, bringing in a 1949 year that I know a lot of you frantic ones out there will really enjoy. And ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Parker and the All-Stars with the great Bird, Kenny Dorham on trumpet, Tommy Potter on bass, Al Haig on piano, and Max Roach on drums, do a little thing for you that I know you'll really enjoy. Half Nelson.
Although not part of any major network, WMCA in New York spent its Friday evening at the Royal Roost, the hippest jazz club in New York City. From midnight till 6 a.m., the station and the club jumped, with Miles Davis and Charlie Parker bebopping, and Symphony Sid offering Christmas cheer. Why worry about tomorrow? Tonight is Christmas Eve.